You are listening to Go Youth Podcast with Ali SA. Greatest topics of the world, like relationship, business, finances, and many more. Live streaming into the whole continent with Ali.
Good evening to everyone who are joining us. I know that we have a lot of people who are joining us. Oh, Mafrika. I see that you're having a problem, Mr. Mafrika here. Thank you so much, guys, for joining on the show. Tonight, we'll be having Cheryl, we'll be having Dobby, also Mr. Mafrika, and myself here. My name is Ali. Tonight, we'll be digesting two motions. Oh, I see that it's all in order with you, Mafrika. I think we're having some issues.
You are listening to Go Youth Podcast with Ali SA. Greatest topics of the world, like relationship, business, finances, and many more. Live streaming into the whole continent with Ali.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. Now, very quickly, tonight we'll be having two motions. The first motion that will be going on will be the unreliability of the South African Police Service due to the corruption and the abuse of power. The second motion that will be also digesting will be women. Women of today actually are no longer marriageable. So now, very quickly, we have rules in the house how we actually run the debate. Now, the first motion that will be going through, it will depend with the speakers whether you'll be proposing the motion or opposing the motion. Now, there are rules in the house. Rule number one: when a speaker is doing a presentation or proposing or opposing a motion, your mic needs to be on mute so that you don't disturb the other ones while they're doing their presentation. Secondly, while a speaker is busy proposing a motion or opposing a motion, if you have any question that you would like to ask, you just go on the chat box, you write POI so that we can recognize you and you go through. Now, very quickly, I'll start with the first speaker that we have on the house. We have a lady on the house by the name of Sharon Platon. Please introduce yourself to the house.
Are we proposing in terms of the topic of the unreliability of subs?
Yes, ma'am. For now, it's introduction. You just have to introduce yourself.
Okay, like I said, I'm Sharon from the Northwest University. I'm a law student.
All right. No, thank you so much.
You are listening to Go Youth Podcast with Ali SA. Greatest topics of the world, like relationship, business, finances, and many more. Live streaming into the whole continent with Ali.
Good evening to you, Mr. Maloba. Can you please introduce yourself to the house?
But I don't prefer to be specific in introducing my occupation. The least I can say is I'm in the field of law. I thank you.
All right, thank you so much. You also have Mr. Mafrika. Mr. Mafrika, please introduce yourself to the house.
Good evening, Mr. Malekane and the viewers and the participant. My name is Tebo Wosichamasi Wahasao, Mafrika, currently a student at the University of South Africa. I'm here today to be participating and taking part in the proposed motions. Thank you.
We know all our speaker, but we also have a guest speaker here. Not sure if the speaker, she or he, is willing to come on to turn the camera on. Given, can you please introduce yourself to the house, Given, so that we can know where you're joining us from?
Hi everyone. Maybe I might be in the wrong place, but I'm joined in as a guest, just to observe and listen to both.
All right. No, thank you so much, Given, for that.
You are listening to Go Youth Podcast with Ali SA. Greatest topics of the world, like relationship, business, finances, and many more. Live streaming into the whole continent with Ali.
All right, we are back from the break. Yes, we'll be having Given as our guest. Now, the first motion that will actually be digesting on the house tonight is that a lot of people are complaining about the South African police, saying that the service that they're providing to the public as a whole doesn't matter whether it's in Limpopo, it's in Mpumalanga, it's in Northwest, in Gauteng. It doesn't matter where the people are based. But most people are complaining, saying that corruption and the abuse of power is affecting the service which is provided by the police in South Africa. Now, we'll start with our first speaker so that she can digest it and make sure that those who are viewing also listening, maybe, my lady, you can appetize them so that they can understand the motion. And let's check your view, what we have with you, Sharon. Sharon, please go through. And please, before you go through, Sharon, you need to explain to us whether you'll be proposing the motion or opposing the motion. Should there be any POI, I'll pause you, then you'll take the POI. You can go through, Sharon.
Are we proposing the motion?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
You have to choose whether you're proposing or you are opposing.
I'm proposing.
Yes, please go through.
As I was saying, corruption, it is of the utmost current issue in our country because of, the South African police service is practicing corruption in many ways. As I have seen, I can give with examples. The police are practicing corruption in terms of when they can even accept bribes from people. I have seen that criminals can even pay the police in order to make the docket disappear, and also
Okay. I don't know what happened with Sharon. I think she was experiencing some technical issues, but she was trying to stretch out some vital points when she was saying that some of the police in South Africa, they might be taking bribes. Some, not all of them. Some they might be taking bribes. So I believe that she was trying to stretch, something. But okay, it's fine. She will come back very quickly. Let's move to Honorable Toby. Let's check with Toby. Toby, are you proposing the motion or are you opposing the motion?
I'm obviously proposing the motion. I don't even think it is going to be possible for one to oppose the motion. It is going to be a very difficult one. It is very blatant in the eyes of almost everyone that the South Africa service, actually the public service in South Africa, is very poor. It is not only the matter of South Africa's police service only. It happens in almost every sector. The governmental service is not satisfying at all. So, to be specific about the South Africa's police service, it is evident, it is actually very clear in the eyes of everyone that the service is very poor. So I myself experienced the unsatisfactory service of the South Africa's police service. I remember the other time I went to this other police station whereby I reported a crime. Actually, I was with my friend whereby they marked us of a cell phone. So when we got there, instead of getting a satisfactory assistance, they were like, you guys can see that the area at which you are staying is not safe at all. So for you to solve the problem is to relocate from where you are staying instead of them attending to the matter and rendering a satisfactory service as the ultimate guardian of this country. But they never did such. So this is the end of my submission.
So, Mr. Baloba, you're basically saying that um, some of the police that are actually, servicing
Actually, I'm
the
not saying
community.
some, majority of them, according to my view and my experiences collectively, it is not some, it is the majority of the police.
On what grounds, Mr. Baloba? Because you need to go in detail so that we can understand. When you're saying almost the majority of them, they're not actually. Don't you think maybe they might be having, shortage in terms of the resources? For instance, let's say maybe there is a police station, in a community where you find that there is one
Even
vehicle,
if they have,
and they, yeah,
mm,
yeah, go through.
yeah, such situation you are talking about is, sorry, such situation you are talking about is quite possible. There are police stations whereby they lack resources, but after all, their service is not satisfying. No matter what the reason may be, but at the end of the day, the service of the South Africa's police service is not satisfying. It may be due to being self-interested, being selfish, being greedy, being due to corruption, you may name them. But at the end of the day, the final service they render to the community of South Africa is not satisfying at all.
Then who is to be blamed in this case? Who is to be blamed? Because I want to understand who is to be blamed when we are saying that we can see that there might be a scarcity of resources, and we need to know who is to be blamed because it looks like there need to be someone to be blamed. Who is to be blamed, Mr. Maloba?
I can't say a specific individual to be blamed in this situation. There is a series of stakeholders to be held accountable in this one. For example, let's say one reports a crime at the moment and that person needs assistance. So in that situation, it is not the responsibility of one personnel to make sure that that situation is fully covered. It is going to require dedication, and it is going to require dedication from an individual, from an, oh, it is a message from Sharon. Sorry for the disturbance. She says
Okay,
she is experiencing Wi-Fi problem, but she is reconnecting at the moment. She just sent a text just now.
not a problem.
Um,
Consider.
yeah, to resume on my submission. In that situation, it is not the problem of an individual. In most cases, you may find out that, as you mentioned, it is due to a lack of resources. So in that situation, it is very clear that it is not the problem of an individual. In some other situations, the personnels may have the resources, all the necessary resources, but only to find out that those people don't have any willingness to fulfill their duties. And on top of that, there is no one in the senior position to hold such people accountable. Again, I can say in some communities, they are taking advantage, knowing that in this particular community, majority of these people, or even all of them, they do not know their rights or what is a satisfactory service delivery. Anything to their disposal is okay to them. There is no way they can take any further measures against us.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Maloba. I definitely hear what you're saying. The scarcity of resources, it's actually contributing towards for the police not to actually fulfill their duties. Very quickly, I know that we have Given and Patrick as part of our guest. I'll try to give Given just a second. Let's hear what is Given's point of view. Given, can you please unmute?
Hello.
Yes, sir, you can
So
speak,
I
please.
think, hello.
Yes, sir, please, you can speak. We are listening.
Oh, okay. For me, I was saying I think it's more of a double-edged sword. So it's, as the previous speaker was saying, it's true that willingness and love for your job is is really lacking in our police service. But then the road doesn't really start from the ground, because the South African police service is actually under resourced, understaffed, and all of those etc. Because like it means now the problem would start at government level, your minister of police to the ground soldiers, because the budget when they are passed is not properly allocated. First of all, we have a DNA backlog, DNA evidence, which is crucial in terms of forensic related cases. These are your murder related cases, even in some instances rape related cases. So they can't really fast track, or let me say, do anything with evidence. They may say, okay, we'll try to help you, but you find that there's a backlog and then they can't process even the evidence they've managed to collect from you. So this will, in a way, render them to be useless to our eyes. But there are multiple factors which play to the overall perception of
Yeah.
how our
Given,
police is functioning.
given. Sorry, just to interrupt you. I see there is a POI that is coming from the house. Mr. Mafrika, we see that you're raising a POI. What are you raising a POI on? Mafrika, what are you raising a POI on? Right. Okay, please go through, Given.
Yes, so as I was saying, for me, I would say as much as because I don't want to dwell much on the fact that the willingness of our police, because I think that everyone does know more about, but then there's the background and administrative funding. It goes with proper support, all of those. That's what our police on their own are missing. They're underpaid, honestly. So if you underpay someone, then you are indirectly causing disloyalty. Because now imagine this guy is working involved in all these dangerous dealings, and they are constantly being offered money, and at the same time you are underpaying them. Obviously, you are
Okay,
brewing that there is
let me ventilate. Let me try to ventilate some few points from your side. Given number one, you
yes,
spoke about scarcity of resources. You also spoke about underpaid employees, and
yes,
you also mentioned the point where you spoke about lack of leadership that is coming from the top cops. Now, looking on
yes,
these three factors or these 3 points, the issue of mismanagement coming from the management, employees being underpaid, and the scarcity of resources. From where you're sitting,
yes,
given, if you're given an
yes.
opportunity to come with a short-term plan and long-term plan, what do you propose to the state?
For me, I'm more on just get to the basics person. Just do your basics right. First of all, let's be honest, subs is one of the most important divisions in our country. So the first thing will be a skills audit on our police. We do a skills audit to ensure that we are properly equipped to respond to situations. So then the second part is proper resourcing. This one I cannot stress enough. So if we are able to do a skills audit to ensure that we have proper police officers in the field, then we solve the willingness to work problem. This might be a more of a long term problem, solution. Then you resourcing every quarterly or biannually. We really the country does release funds. So even when you go to your president or whatever cabinet level related, you go there with a proposal. Then it's a must now to resource because our crime rate is out of control. So now it's a must. So those are my two solutions I would put on the table. Although it's a complex issue and multi-layered. Uh Mr.
Yeah, yeah. No, we get your point, Honorable Given. And I think the minister is listening from where he might be sitting. Mr. Maloba, I don't know, very quickly, I'm aware that we also have Patrick on the line, but Patrick is not able to speak due to fever, and Mr. Mafrika was trying to connect. You know, I like what Mr. Given, some of the points that he did try to bring to the house, the issue of skill audit, and he also mentioned some of the problem that some of the police are underpaid, and there's a problem that is coming from the top leadership from the South African Police Service. Very quickly, before I bring you, Honorable Maloba, let me bring okay, Mafrika just connected now. Let me bring you Mr. Maloba. What is your point of view based on what the prior speaker, Mr. Given? What is your point of view?
Unfortunately, I didn't have the chance to listen to everything he mentioned, but so far I can say I'll comment on the list I managed to listen to.
Okay.
Sorry, something just disturbed me.
Okay, not a problem.
I agree with almost all of what he mentioned. South Africa's police service is very poor. Some of the causes, in addition to what he mentioned, is corruption in a manner that they hire people who do not have necessary skills for the job they are doing. If you may try to analyze the situation, there are policing courses at universities and colleges in South Africa, but the graduates of those particular courses, whom I think, based on my analysis and view, that they possess necessary skills for those particular jobs. But unfortunately, they are not hired. Instead, they are being substituted by people who possess grade 10 reports, grade 11 reports, and so on. Some of them, they didn't even go to school. So such people are not literate. They do not even know the basics of their jobs.
Okay.
So
All right.
so yeah, those are some of the problems we have in South Africa. We are being substituted by, in some fields, we are being substituted by people who do not have necessary skills for those positions. But in all, I can say let's not focus only on the critique side. There are positive sides to this story we are talking about. If we may analyze South Africa at large and compare actually other countries of Africa to South Africa, South Africa's police service and judiciary at all is very
Yeah.
competitive in comparison to them. Because it may be pointless for us to only talk about South Africa's police service without comparing it with the world. In that way, I seldom feel like we are being unrealistic. We have high expectations which are not possible to be implemented in the country. Let us compare the service of South Africa's police service with other services rendered at the rest of
All right.
Africa. At the
Okay.
rest of the
You are
world,
running
it's
out of time, my
possible.
speaker.
Yeah.
Please wrap up. You're running out of time. Please wrap up your point, Mr. Malova.
Okay. To wrap up my point, I can say although our South Africa's police service is very poor, but it has some few brighter aspects. If we are to compare it with the world, we can say we are not too bad at all, although we are not at the stage we desire to be.
Okay. No, thank you so much, Honorable Maloba, for your point of view. Also trying to, I could say, emphasizing and trying to ventilate some of the points which Honorable Given has given to us. I'm aware that Mr. Given cannot be with us. I want to bring Mo Africa on board, but very quickly before I bring Mo Africa, I want to allow Mr. Given just to put his conclusion as he's about to go off from the show. Given, can you please unmute and put your last word as you're about to go off from the show? I'm aware that you only had a few minutes.
Um, just to conclude that, I thank you for the time you've given me. But yeah, I was saying that in terms of us trying to find solutions or basing our opinions on what we see, it's vital that we study the whole picture so that we can clearly assess what's wrong. And then when we try to bring solutions, we try to bring solutions to
All
more
right.
comprehensive solutions. Maybe if I could say. So thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Given, for putting a point of view. Mr. Mo Africa, I'm not sure if you're already connected. We wanted to give Mr. Mo Africa to come on board, but very quickly, we are going to take a short break. And after that, we'll be moving to Mr. Mo Africa so that we can digest our second motion. And also, it looks like Sharon is also experiencing some technical issues. Mr. Frederick, we are aware that you're joining and you're not able to speak due to other issues. You're welcome to send us your comment on the chat box. Let's take a short break. We'll be back just now.
You are listening to Go Youth Podcast with Ali SA. Greatest topics of the world like relationship, business, finances, and many more. Live streaming into the whole continent with Ali.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, guys. Now let's go back to Mr. Mafrika. We know Mr. Given tried to conclude, and Mr. Maloba also tried to ventilate some of the points that Mr. Given was going through. Very quickly, Mafrika, I can see that tonight you're experiencing technical issues. What is your point of view based on people complaining about our South African police?
Thank you, Mr. Ali, for the chance that you've given me today. I'm having trouble some with the network this on my side, but I will try to be fast and short. My point towards the unreliability of South African police service is that since in South Africa the recruitment service for the police is about training and grade 12 only, then we are going to have a serious issue because this student or police student that are taken for training, they must also be taught about the issues and the reality of the life, and also be taught about how to avoid corruption, because we have students or we have people in our country who are very keen or who are passionate of becoming police officers, but due to their body mass index, due to the qualification grade 12, they can't be police officers. We can recruit the police services and also implement the good leadership, because since we have a leader who is a police officer but not taking charge of the police issues, then we are
All right, not sure if Mafrika is having some technical issues. It looks like he's paused at his side. I don't know what might be the issue, but I understand. Technology. I understand. All right, Mr. Maloba, I don't know what might be happening with Mr. Moafrika, but I believe that he will
To
reconnect just shortly
implement
so that
the
he can come
parade
back
or the about
and
implement.
we. Okay, go through.
Am I still there?
Yes, you're still there, Chair. Please go through.
Yes. As I was saying, that the leaders from the Minister of Police and Services, we must have someone who is very passionate about their job, who will do accountability job, because we can't be having the minister, MEC, who are busy entertaining other field, whereas their field is not taken care of. As I was
So,
saying, we
so let me
can
let me,
have
let
the
me
Minister
interject
of
there.
Police busy
Let me come in.
doing
Let
a
me let
parade.
me come in. Let me come in. Let me come in. Africa, let me come in. So, are you saying that it's like according to how I'm hearing you, there's no need for one to be moved from health to police, from police to sports. I want you to digest that point and bring it clean to the house so that we can understand your point.
Yes, my point is that we need someone who is well-trained police officer, because you can't take me, for example, for myself, I'm in education and electricity. You can't say I must lead the department of police. How am I going to lead the department of the police, whereas I don't know anything about police? So this deployment of ministers have to go hand in hand with the qualifications. We don't need ministers of who are having the qualification to teach in primary school and be the ministers of police. That is totally wrong. We need someone who went to training for police, who went to military training or whatever. But the person must be in relation with the knowledge of how to combat the police services, because we can't be taking a teacher to be a minister of a police. That is totally wrong. That's where we are getting it all wrong, because it starts at the head. In my language, we say fish gets rotten from the head. It does not get rot from the tail. So that by saying, if the person is not accountable or is not even knowing or related to what he is doing, then we are going to have the corruption in our services, because that person doesn't know how to operate those things. You can't take a taxi driver to drive an aeroplane. That is totally out of line.
So okay. I want to get this point that is coming from you. You're definitely saying that, but okay. Sure, you're bringing something in the house which we can see it's happening in South Africa, where you find that they move the minister of health to tourism, they move the minister of small and businesses to a certain department. So, are you saying that the criteria that has been used by our government when appointing the MECs and also ministers, it's wrong? On what grounds? Okay, I see that Mr. Malova, you are raising a POI. What are you raising a POI on, Mr. Malova? Sorry,
Uh,
you're muted. You are muted. Please go through.
can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you, sir. What are you raising a
Yeah,
POI on?
I raised the POI to agree with what he mentioned. The South Africa's police service and the government at large, let's say the public sector, is very corrupt. It is not like when they appoint people who are not qualified for those positions, we do not have qualified people in the country. They are only looking for their friends, their family members, and everyone they know. Nepotism is happening at every corner of South Africa. So it is unfortunate that even up to now, not everyone, almost everyone in the governmental sector is not held accountable for corrupt activities, nepotism, and everything.
All right. Thank you so much, Honorable Maloba, for submitting your POI to the House. Very quickly, Mr. Maloba, the first motion, we went through it, and I see that we had some comments. We have the first comment that is coming from, let me have a look. It was coming from Makalanda. I think it's Mickey. She or he said, according to me, training is not enough for the police. I see incompetence on our SAPS. I think you're referring to the South African police service members. They were supposed to attend field training for full 3 years and full 2 year on-site training. So, which take us back to what Mr. Given was saying, that most of them are incompetent. And also we have the second comment that is coming from Mr. Isail Lawrence. He was asking a question. I don't know if there's anyone in the house who can assist. The question was that, so my question in regarding to the topic discussed, what criteria, or is there any tool that the SAPS it used to recruit the members into the service? The question is open to the members of the house. And we also have another comment that is coming again from Makalanda. The survival must be included in their training. Let's have a look. It says that the survival must be included in their training. What's the use of training drill? What's the use of training drill moments and drums? They waste time. I'm not sure if you can see the comment. He's saying that what is the use for training them for drill movements and drums? They waste time on training for nothing. They are not there to entertain us, but to fight. Which I think the person might be referring to the department of whereby the other ones who are doing drums and all these things. But I don't know. Do we have anyone in the house who want to respond to any of the comments before we move to the second motion? I'll start with you, Malova. Do you want to respond to any comment?
Yeah, I would like to comment, especially on the comment that members of the SAPS should be trained for about 2 to 3 years. I don't think that training is necessary, or we don't have it at the moment. It is already there. Unfortunately, due to corruption, those who get those necessary skills are not considered. They are only considering grade 12s, grade 11s, grade 10s, although we have those graduates.
Okay, what a point. So, Malawa, you're saying that we have people who have diplomas in policing but who are not working?
Yeah, they're not trained. Instead, they are being substituted by grade 7 learners.
Okay. Okay. Mwafrika, do you have any comment coming from the comments from the ones who are viewing? Do you have anything to say?
Yes, Mr. Ali. You know, now we are living in a very sensitive world. Our people can see, our people can read, our people can interpret any situation and analyze it. They can't just be blinded or be fooled by anything that is going on in our country.
That's true. All right. I think Mafrika is also having technical issues. All right. It's fine then. If it's experiencing technical issues, very quickly, Mr. Malova, let's go for a quick break. And when we come back, we move to the next motion.
You are listening to Go Youth Podcast with Ali SA. Greatest topics of the world like relationship, business, finances, and many more. Live streaming into the whole continent with Ali. You are listening to Go Youth Podcast with Ali SA. Greatest topics of the world like relationship, business, finances, and many more. Live streaming into the whole continent with Ali.
All right, thank you so much, guys. We're back from the break. Now we'll be moving to the second motion. Now, the second motion, I think a lot of ladies they might fight with us. On the second motion, yo, I don't know about what guy, but this motion, I know for sure that some they might be complaining, saying that we're feminine. To be honest, we're not feminine at all. This is the reality that we just have to face as the world. Now, the second motion is that women today are no longer marriageable. I hear a lot of guys complaining, saying that a lot of ladies today, even you can try your level best to make sure that you impress them. Whether you have money, whether you have everything that you want, you're trying to impress them. If they're not there, they're not there. You marry someone, then tomorrow the person she's flirting with other people. Even the things that they're doing in the marriage, man, they're not on at all. I want to start with Honorable Mo Africa. Mo Africa, what is your point of view? As we hear that a lot of people are complaining, saying that, Basadiba today, they're no longer, marriageable. What is your point of view, Mr. Mo Africa? Then from there, we'll move to Mr. Maloba. Mo Africa? All right. I think Mo Africa is connecting. Maloba, what is your point of view?
Hello. My point of view on this topic is not one-sided. I will try to move from different aspects of the topic. Let me start it from here.
Okay.
So far, I can say I agree with the motion. I agree with the motion. Women of
On what
today are no longer.
grounds? On what grounds? On what grounds?
I'm agreeing on with the topic based on what I'm experiencing and what I'm seeing today. Not what I'm
Okay.
experiencing personally. I just mean
Yeah.
what I am seeing wherever I am going. It is no longer easy for for people to settle down together. I cannot say it is the problem of women alone. It is the problem of both parties. It is going to be unfair to say women of today are no longer marriageable. Both
Okay.
genders, both genders, I can say on their own, they're just not compatible to be in a relationship together. Uh, some of the factors which leads to them to be not compatible for marriage is the socio-economic standards of people. It is very difficult for people of the same financial standard to settle together. Again, even if there is someone who is a bit upper than the other, it is still also difficult. So in all, I can say the problem lies within the financial standard in most instances. Although there are many other problems which influences this challenge, but the main problem, as things stands, I can say, lies
Okay.
within the
Let me
financial
let me
standard.
let me let me let me, let me interrupt you. When you're saying that the finances, in relation to the social economic issues, they're affecting, marriages of people. Let's go into detail in that. Can you give us some examples which are in relation to what you're saying, so that we can ventilate it very well.
Or to go into detail,
Yes, please go into detail.
I can say, to give an example, let's say in the household, as we are talking about marriage, obviously not in a relationship. Let's say it is only the husband who is only working, the the wife is not. So in most cases, the husband tend to feel like the wife is the burden. At the end of the day, it happens that the husband interacts with someone outside the relationship or marriage who is financially stable enough to be compatible with his standard. Such things are one of those factors which can lead to the husband being not faithful to the partner. At the end of the day, a breakup can happen.
Hold on. I believe that still on what you're talking about, or what you're trying to explain, I believe that one of the roles or one of the responsibility of a man into a relationship is to provide. Now, when the guy is working, I mean, when the guy is working and the ladies is not working, and the guy decide, to flirt or to play around or to mingle with someone who might be financially stable, and at the end of the day the guy start to compare the two relationship, that my partner decides she's not financially stable, there's no need for me to be in a relationship with this lady because financially she's not there. I think we as men were getting it wrong there, because one of our responsibilities as men is to, I see that there's a POI that is coming from Mo Africa. Mo Africa, what are you raising a POI on?
No, this one is very interesting, and then especially in this month of Valentine, it's very very interesting because in my point I want to say, like, I agree with what you've just said, Mr. Ali, and then but in other sense I want to add on what you have said. Ladies of nowadays, they just see men as a source of income. Correct. When they have the problems and they see a man who is financially stable, they see the problem solver. That's why you find, Tori, a woman can sacrifice and commit to stay with someone they are not in love with. And as we understand and have analyzed critically analyzed the situation, we find that
Okay, I think Africa, it's having a bad network tonight, but I believe that he will just come back just now. Um, I don't know if you have tried to pick a point, Mr. Maloba, from what Mr. Mafrika was saying, because I think he was just trying to emphasize the point that we as men, we have the responsibility, especially when it comes to finances, to take care of our partners in general and our family. And he was just trying to thrust that point out. What is your view?
Partially, I can say I agree with the statement which was mentioned, but on the other part, I don't agree with it. Let me start with
On
the
what
former.
grounds?
Let
Okay.
me start with the former. Um, I can see when a man is a financial provider in the household or in the relationship, he has his own expectations. For example, one of the main expectations he has is the woman to be submissive. He would prefer to be dominant in the relationship if he is a financial provider. He would prefer to exercise his masculinity in the relationship. However, at the end of the day, the other gender, women, tend to say there is toxic masculinity. So it is where the problem lies. Although we are financial providers or we are trying to be financial providers, but on the other part, there will still rise complaints that they still need power in their hands, although we are financial providers. It is what happens in most relationships. By the moment someone decides to be a financial provider, at the same time prefers to be the dominant one in the relationship.
Okay, I think okay. Now, when you're saying that if the male partner is the one who's financially stable in the relationship, is the one who want to be dominant, and if maybe it comes to a point whereby the
Yes,
female partner might be working and the male partner is not working, the female partner want to be dominant in
the
the
female,
relationship.
yeah, the female partner will want to be dominant. Then on the other hand, the dominance of females is out of normality of our world. In our minds, it is not normal
Yeah.
for women to be dominant in the relationship. We prefer to still be dominant, even if we are not financial providers. It is whereby they start to come up with their feminism theories and mindsets in the relationship. So such things are one of the main factors which leads to the differences in the relationship. At the end of the day, a breakup happens due to the feminism ideologies. They be like, there is some toxic masculinity. I deserve better. So I can settle for this whereby I'm being compelled to be submissive.
Okay. I understand the part of being submissive very quickly. Let's bring Mr. Africa back on the bot. Mr. Africa, you're still trying to, make a point, but the network it took it out. Can you please go through?
Thanks, Mr. Ali. My point was, as I have mentioned already, this topic of today, it's very interesting, especially on this month of Valentine. Women and men has to understand one thing: relationship and marriage are very, very strict thing that needs a human commitment. A woman must not never see a man as a problem solver to her problem because a man is financially stable. Marriage is about commitment, love, trust, respect, a lot of more things that we can mention. But we can't say I can't marry this man because he's not financially okay, because you don't have a crystal ball to see into tomorrow of what tomorrow has in store for you. Because whenever
Okay,
you
very
want
quickly,
to marry
very
someone
quickly,
because
very quickly, Mr. Mafrika. Very quickly, Mr. Mafrika. There's a POI that's
let me
coming from the floor from Honorable Maloba. There's a POI
okay.
coming from Mr. Maloba. Mr. Maloba, what are you raising a POI on?
Stop seeing men as financial solvers in their lives. I think it is a person's choice to have a list of criteria of what kind of a guy do I prefer in my life. If that particular woman prefers a guy who is going to be able to solve her financial problems, it is not a problem at all. The guy should move to the next female who is not preferring him to be the financial solver in her life. That is my view. So I'm not sure if you prefer me to substantiate this view or not, but I will hear from you.
Please do. Please do, Mr. Maloba. Please do before Mr. Mafrika come back. Please do.
Okay, this one of saying I prefer a guy to be a financial solver in my life, it is not a problem at all. The problem is with the guys. If there is a female who prefers a financial solver and you are not willing to solve her problems financially, you have to move to the next person who prefers to, to actually to someone who is financially independent without preferring you to be a financial solver in the relationship. That is my view. Because at the same time, we as males we have our own expectations in the relationship. We prefer to hold all the power in the relationship. We prefer to be dominant in most instances, especially in our societies in South Africa. We prefer to be dominant in the relationship. Secondly, we have many other expectations from females, such as
There-
sexual
there- There's a
expectations and so
POI,
on.
Mr. Maloba. Mr. Maloba, there is a POI, Mr. Maloba, that has been raised by Mr. Mafrika. Mr. Mafrika, what are you raising a POI on?
Thanks, Ali. I want to ask Mr. Malova, saying that a woman has to choose what kind of a man she wants. So, my guy, you want to tell me that if we can have 80% of women preferring a man with money or a man who can solve the financial problems of women, those women that 80%, and then what about their brothers who are not financial solvers of the problems? You got my point. They are not going to solve other ladies' problems, and it's their brothers. They have the brothers. Maybe she's having 4 brothers at home that are not working, or they're not even having any financial means of sustaining the life of a lady. And then that lady, she's saying she needs a financially stable guy who's going to solve her problems. What is she doing to solve her problems of finances? Now,
Okay.
as young men
Yeah,
of
yeah. Very
nowadays, we have
quickly.
to be wise. What
Very,
is the
very
man
quickly.
doing?
Very quickly, Mr. Mafrika. There's a POI that was raised by Mr. Maloba. Mr. Maloba, what are you raising a POI on?
I would like to disagree with Mr. Africa. We have to actually we all know that we need finances to sustain our lives, and almost all of us we are self-interested. You have to first think for yourself before you can think for the next person. So let's say here is a female, right? Is in need of a relationship. Uh, why would she choose someone who is broke? But sorry to say, broke, maybe it is a harsh word. Who is not financially stable instead of someone who is financially stable? Do you think she should choose a broke someone for the sake of being perceived as someone who's not a gold digger? No. The person should choose someone of desirable characters in the society. The person should choose someone who is financially stable. If actually I recommend all of them to choose financially stable people. We need finances to sustain our lives. Bafela bare, what is it? This line, bare, poverty is not romantic. Uh, Such words can be perceived as an offense to those who are not financially stable. This one is actually a very sensitive topic, but I will try to handle it with care as much as possible. Because it is very clear that we need finances for survival. We can't shy away from this one. So in a relationship, there are many necessities which needs money, especially in our generation. People wanna go out. People wanna go to restaurants. People wanna go to vacations. They wanna travel. They wanna do everything. They wanna afford their daily basis lives. So without financial stability, what is going to happen?
Mr. Maloba, let me come in there. You're advising our sisters to be into a relationship with financial stable guys. When we're talking about someone who's financially stable, can you go into detail so that someone who's listening might say, Chaban, I'm not working, I'm not financially stable, which means my person, she must leave. Can you go into detail so that people can understand what do you mean in someone who's financially stable?
By saying someone who is financially stable, I'm referring to someone who has enough source of income. I can't say who's working because there are those who are not working, but they have enough source of income. I can say it should be someone who has enough source of income.
All right. Okay. All right, Maloba, very quickly, we're going to take a short break. After that, we can wrap up both on the two motions that we have, the first motion and the second motion. Then we'll be just giving our final thought. Then after that, we're good to go.
listening to Go Youth Podcast with Ali SA. Greatest topics of the world like relationship, business, finances, and many more. Live streaming into the whole continent with Ali.
All right. Thank you guys for taking your time to come and join the show tonight. We had two motions which we're digesting. The last motion that we're sitting on was that the women of today are no longer marriageable, which I believe Mr. Maloba and also Africa, as I see, Africa is still busy trying to connect. They've tried to go into detail. What are some of the things which might be contributing to people not being able to be marriageable? All right, now very quickly, I want to go back to Mr. Maloba. Now I want you, Mr. Maloba, as I see that we're still having issues with Honorable Africa to come back online, and also Sharon was able to connect for some few minutes. Due to network, she was able to come online. Um, can you please wrap up? Because from my point of view, I can wrap up on the first motion where we spoke about the unreliability of the South African, uh, you know, police service members. Most of them, yes. I like some of the points which were made by Honorable Given, where Honorable Given they stressed out some of the points saying that skill always needs to be done. And he mentioned the issue of proper training. Most of them need to be retrained. And I also heard you, Mr. Maloba, saying that there's something, I could say there's corruption within the SAPS somewhere, somehow, because most people who are having their diplomas and the diploma in police, let me just say, people who have qualifications to work as the police officers, but they're not actually given the opportunity to be as the police. But most of them who are there are those who just have grade 12s. And one also mentioned that most of them they're training and practicing for wrong things, where they're busy training them how to play the instruments, to play the drums, but they don't actually teach them how to do the work on field. My conclusion on that motion is that the government it needs to sit down, try to restructure how they are employing the members of the police and sort out the issue of their salaries. On the issue of the women of today that are not marriageable, I think that one is a complex matter which it needs a person to decide what actually the person needs from a person. And if it's all about money, I don't think there's love there. What is your final conclusion, Mr. Maloba, based on the motion one and motion two?
As I mentioned, that one of the main problems we have in the relationships is the financial stability of both individuals. When the female one has the financial stability, tend to pose problem of wanting to hold all the power of the relationship, of wanting to be the dominant one in the relationship, while in the minds of majority of us males, it is abnormal for females to be dominant and for the males to be the submissive ones. In our norms, the male should remain dominant while the other gender, the females, should be the submissive ones. So the financial stability is the main thing which poses the challenges in the relationships. When the males get the power in their hands, they tend to be being accused of practicing toxic masculinity. So at the end, I would like to say, commenting on the issue raised by the latter speaker, saying females should not perceive relationships as the source of income. Somehow I disagree with him. I still persist that we have a choice to choose the other person who is not preferring us.
All right. I think Mr. Maloba, he's also having some technical issues. I so believe that in a few minutes of time, he'll be able to come back so that we can be able to go through. Let me come back to you, Mr. Africa, since we are having technical issues with Mr. Toby. What is your conclusion of the show based on motion one and motion two?
Thank you, Ali. We are having a serious network problems on our side today. Uh, on my conclusion from that motion one, uh, we just need to mend and amend the ways of doing things in South Africa, and we need to be given the chances as the society to take part in the governance, because we can't allow taxi drivers to be driving aeroplanes as I was as stated. If it's irrelevant, sorry for that, listeners and viewers. Uh, as such, I mean, we can't take uh, the medical doctor to be running the police uh, department. We have to be relevant. We have to follow the real protocols. We have to be fair to the society. And on the second motion of a marital thing that women of these days are not marriageable, uh, that thing is a reality. As we see a lot of divorce cases these days, we see a lot of divorces going on because people marry or get into marriage with money or the the things that I have, not myself, respectively. If you marry someone or you get into marriage with someone, you going to be with them through thick and thin. But if you marry me or you agree to marry me as a woman, and then later on, because I was having nice things, money and blah, 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 you agree to marry me. But those things, when they fade away or they go away due to other circumstances of life, because life is a moving vehicle. So if those things goes away, then you will go also go away because you did not marry or get inside the marriage with me because you were in love with me, but you're in love with whatever that I had. So that's my submission on those two uh, topics above.
Now, very
Thanks.
quickly before I go back, yeah, very quickly before I go back to Mr. Maloba, while I'm still on you, Mr. Africa. Now, what advice are you giving to the general public based on motion two, where we're saying that it's either it could be a man or could be the ladies, they're no longer manageable today. What is your advice to the general public before I go back to Mr. Maloba?
My advice to the public is that in a relationship is about two people. It's a two-way street. A relationship. It's not a one-way street where someone is only benefiting or someone is only uh, be in control. It's a two-way street. It's about two people. Two people have to agree on everything, disagree, and solve the problem. It's not about you having money or whatever. Even if I can even quote from I once mentioned that marriage is not about money. Marriage is about your mental stability. Marriage is about your abilities. You have to be able to do things, able to be emotionally intelligent. You have to be there for your partner. It's not about money. It's far away from money. It is about emotions, feelings, respect, and two people join together to form a concrete thing. And then that's why we're gonna say people are in a happy marriage because it's not about money. It's not even about any arrangement of some sort. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Mafrika, for advice to the general public. We go back to you, Mr. Malova. What is your advice to the general public, especially when we are on the second motion, which is in relation to relationships, when we're saying most of the women of today are no longer marriageable? What is your advice to the general public?
My advice is we have a problem. We have a problem of people who don't want to be realistic with the situation of relationships. We have people who are running away from the issue of financial stability. And on the other hand, it is found that the financial stability is one of the core factors in the relationship which contributes towards relationship sustainability. It is okay, it is fine, and it is normal for people to be selfish, according to me. There is nothing wrong in being selfish. There is nothing wrong in choosing yourself first before you can choose the other person. You have to love yourself good enough before you can love the other person. So it is somehow irrational and unreasonable to claim to be loving the other person while you do not love yourself. And in the practice of self love, one should be free in choosing someone whom she or he can perceive as someone very good for his personal space. For example, you have to be very realistic. Life is almost impossible without financial stability. So I don't see anything wrong with those who prefer financially stable partners instead of those who do not have money. Yes, I acknowledge that there is more into relationship than money, but money should also be considered without shying away from that topic. I know we have to love each other in addition to the financial stability, but without that money, where is that relationship going? Love alone is not enough. Yes, the couple should love each other, but love alone is not enough. The relationship, according to me, is not going anywhere without financial stability or without solid source of income. For example, if here is a lady, the lady is aware that actually to herself, she's like, yeah, here I am, I'm not financially stable, I'm broke. So what is the point of finding a broke partner while you are already broke? So it is better for the poor lady to find someone who is at least financially stable so they can balance each other. The relationship without money is going to be possible. Imagine the guy is broke, the lady is broke, then where are they going? A child in a relationship is a possibility. So I don't know what other people are preferring in their relationships or in their lives and their futures. But the person has to sit down and ask herself or himself the question, where is the relationship going with this kind of broke financial standard? So it is going to be possible to go forth with the relationship. How are they going to sustain the baby if they are both not financially stable? That is my submission. There is nothing wrong with being selfish. There is nothing wrong in choosing someone who is financially stable.
You are listening to Go Youth Podcast with Ali SA. Greatest topics of the world like relationship, business, finances, and many more. Live streaming into the whole continent with Ali.
Tonight's show was quite hot as we had Given who also joined the show, and we had Honorable Maloba, we also have Honorable Africa, and we also have Honorable Sharon, which I believe she has some technical issues. I also believe that in future, most of them, they'll be able to join us until we reach the end of the show. Mr. Maloba, thank you so much. Good night to you, my brother.